Wisdom is so important because it can act like a map through a place that you've never been before. Welcome to part 1 of the Wisdom miniseries. In this episode, finding wisdom in the minds of different kinds of people. And you might be surprised by the last point because you wouldn't normally think to look there for wisdom. Well, seek and you shall find, so let's get to finding. Welcome to Better Echoes, improving ourselves so we can uplift all. You're awesome, let's dive in. Let's just loosely go over the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is awareness of factual information. Wisdom, on the other hand, is knowing how to make a smart decision or handle something in the best way that it can possibly be handled. All right, let's rock. First up, let's talk about people, specifically old people. Old people are wisdom libraries, and that's because they've seen a ton of things and lived a whole lot of life. They've lived through hard times, easy times, poor times, rich times, war times, peace times, sad times, and celebrations. Basically all the times. By living through those situations, they've felt all the emotions that those situations evoke, and they've seen how all those situations resolved in due time, which gave them a ton of wisdom. They can look back with the power of hindsight to gain a better understanding of what happened, how it happened, why it happened, what could have gone differently, and how their choices played out in the long run. And all of that built up a ton of wisdom in them, which we can benefit heavily from. My mom used to tell me that I could learn something the easy way or the hard way. I know you know where I'm going with this. The easy way was taking her advice. The hard way was suffering through the situation by doing it my way. Now, her pain could have saved me plenty of pain, but she knew who I was, and she knew that that meant that I would have to learn a lot of my own lessons the hard way. Now, there is an argument to be made here that if you learn a lesson on your own, it sticks with you better, and you will have learned more. Now, that can absolutely be true, but you have to use wisdom to decide which path to take. Sometimes it's wise to learn the lesson the easy way just by listening and taking that advice. But sometimes you're going to choose the hard path. But you should only make that decision if you know that you can learn something the hard way and still be okay on the other side of learning it that way. For example, my mom told me not to touch a hot stove. I didn't need to try that one out to understand that she was just right about that. But there were plenty of things that I didn't heed her advice on because I probably felt like she didn't know what she was talking about, like she didn't actually have that life experience. I then had to go learn those lessons the hard way because I insisted on doing so. And yes, I learned a lot of valuable lessons that way, but I could have avoided a lot of pain if I had just listened to her in the first place. But who knows? If I learned the lesson the easy way, I might not be as wise as I am now. And I'm not saying I'm fantastically wise or anything like that. I'm just saying not as wise as I feel like I am now. All I'm saying is be very careful and discerning when you're choosing the easy path or the hard path. One will lead to pain and wisdom, and the other one will just be wisdom. Just choose wisely. You really can spare yourself a lot of pain by listening to your parents or grandparents, guardians, or a trusted older person. But some of those lessons you're actually going to choose to learn on your own, which I completely understand. Just know that they may come with some pain. Now, while we're on the subject of gaining wisdom from your parents, I realize that some people's situation with their parents really isn't all that great. Their parents might actually be toxic figures in their lives. And I don't mean that you just don't get along very well, or you butt heads, or don't see eye to eye on some things, or you argue every once in a while. That's not what I mean. I mean that their parents are actually full-on toxic people. That's a sad reality for some people. And if that's your story, then I'm sorry that that's what you're going through. You deserve infinitely better than that. If that's you, it's probably almost impossible to see your parents as wisdom teachers, or even good people at all, but there's still a way to gain wisdom here. If one or both of your parents are toxic, your path to finding wisdom in this situation is just going to look a little bit different. Here's what you need to know. Don't learn what to do from them, but instead learn what not to do from them. Simple, I know, but it's still true, and somebody might really need to hear this right now. See how their toxicity affects you, and resolve never to be that way. You inherently know the difference between healthy and toxic, so use that knowledge here to help steer yourself towards the light side and not down into your own version of their dark, toxic vortex. Despite all their terrible training, you are not cursed to be like them. You can be however you want to be, and why not in that case choose the healthiest version of yourself? Use their failures and the way that you feel because of them as motivation to grow in a healthy direction, and get the hell out from under their roof as fast as you possibly can. Also, go get help and address your feelings. Don't just bury everything and bottle it all up and never heal. Go seek help or therapy and start to heal and grow into a beautiful, resilient, hardship-conquering badass with a hell of a testimony. You can do this, and one day you can even help out people with similar toxic situations, and you might even end up wiser than people with more normal situations because of your struggles, and that gives you main character energy. Back to the main point here. You can gain wisdom by listening to older people, resolving not to be like toxic parents, or making mistakes for yourself. And you can win in all of those scenarios. Some are going to be a little bit easier than others, but you can get a win out of each one of those. And hopefully, should you choose to have children one day, you'll try to pass on your wisdom lessons to your kids. And some they're going to heed and some they won't. But just know that they will learn and gain their own wisdom along the way as they live their lives. Speaking of kids, the next great place to find wisdom, and it's somewhat unexpected, is from young people. Young people haven't been as jaded by the craziness of life yet, and they can have very beautiful perspectives on things that we should be open to. Just because they're young does not mean that they don't have wisdom. It's just a different kind of wisdom. A kind of wisdom that us old folks may have lost a long time ago, because at this point so much life has happened to us and it's scraped out our simpler and purer ways of thinking. Young people have wisdom that we have long since forgotten about from our childhoods. This kind of wisdom can be found in a 4-year-old who's just starting to learn about the world and asking a ton of questions. If you ask them what they think about something, they'll come up with a simple answer based on their simple understanding of things. And it might surprise you and kind of be weirdly clever for their age. Mommy, look, the wind is reading the newspaper. This kind of wisdom can be found in a 10-year-old who has a great idea for a new invention that can help people because they don't have a corporate team or a whole industry telling them that their idea will never work. This kind of wisdom can also be found in a high school student who seems wise beyond their years and has some awesome and original ideas that they're actually acting upon to help upgrade the world. Don't count someone out because they're young. Listen to what they have to say, and I think you'll be surprised at how sage, simple, and beautiful their wisdom can be. The next unexpected but excellent group of people where you can find wisdom is people that you might not really be a fan of. Ew, I hate that guy. She's the worst. Just because you might not be their biggest fan doesn't mean that they aren't still full of useful wisdom that will really help improve your life. There are 2 ways that you can miss out on this wisdom, and here they are. Number 1, you just don't like them, so you just don't listen to anything they have to say, even if their words do occasionally contain some wisdom. Don't do yourself the disservice of blinding yourself just based on your opinion of them. I promise you, the person that you don't get along with has plenty of wisdom for you if you just simply open your mind to it. Change your perspective on them, and you'll see exactly what I mean. And number 2, but this one's a little bit more sneaky. You can miss someone's wisdom because you don't like that person so much that you're not able to see things about yourself that need work because you're so busy not liking them. The way to gain wisdom in this situation is to look into yourself when you're angry or annoyed at them and consider that feeling in yourself and look at changing your reaction. You may feel like that reaction is totally legit, but it might not be. They may have just exposed an emotion or a reaction system in you that might actually need some attention. So look at starting that repair work because it's only going to benefit you in the long run. Stop getting mad or annoyed and start wondering why you're mad or annoyed, and then make some edits in yourself if you find it necessary to do so. So let's just say that the person actually is toxic, which maybe they are. If they're toxic to the people around them, you can still gain wisdom from that situation. It's similar to the way we were talking about gaining wisdom from toxic parents before. Step 1, notice that the person is toxic. This part shouldn't be difficult, it should be pretty clear. And step 2, choose specifically not to be that way. That part shouldn't be difficult either. Remember that if you ever see something like that come up in yourself, squash it. Get rid of it, make sure that thing doesn't come up in you, and that's not something that you give to other people. You can also choose to be the antidote to that toxic person as long as you can do so safely and without causing more of a problem than it actually solves. You can also choose to get out of that situation, which is the wise move sometimes. You can become wiser because you see the damage that they're doing and you can learn how to avoid it, or you can learn how to repair it for other people or yourself. And you can even learn how to help the person causing the damage if it's safe for you to do so. Now, I'm not saying that you should always tolerate toxic people. I don't think you should always tolerate toxic people. Sometimes you need to stand up for yourself and get out of that situation, which I absolutely encourage. You do what you need to do. But as long as that person isn't terribly toxic and you don't need to get away from them for your own health and safety, then you can be learning and gaining wisdom during your interactions with them. Just a reminder, please be very wary of toxic people. Try not to be around them too much if you can help it, but if you're in a place where you're kind of stuck being around them for an extended period of time, like a work situation, then try to use that time to alchemize wisdom out of their toxicity. Remember that despite their harsh outer self, there's a hurt person inside that's squishy underneath all of that, and they just never resolve those issues, and that's probably the reason that they're toxic. Again, even though they're difficult to deal with, just remember that they can still teach us things if we're able to filter the good out of the bad and alchemize. If you're enjoying the mini-series, the other videos are going to be linked below. And now I want to know, what's a great piece of wisdom that you've gained throughout the years? Leave it in the comments below and help enrich our lives. Democratize wisdom. So just to recap, you can find wisdom in speaking with old people, parents, young people, and pretty importantly, people that you might not like. Keep in mind that wisdom is super helpful for personal use, but it can also help you improve humanity by using it to navigate life and social situations out there in the real world. Godspeed in your eternal quest for wisdom. I'll see you on the path. Remember, do something that makes the world a better place this week. People need you. You are the better echo. Subscribe, like, get a sticker at the link below, or watch one of these, and I'll see you next time.